So you and I met down in Hobart.
We did.
That'd be a few years ago now, I guess. Or like
Yeah, it'd probably be about 3
years
about
ago.
3 years ago,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. And at the time I had no inkling in terms of your background, or as I recall, I had a hankering for your dad's leather jacket.
Leather jacket, yeah. He still remembers it, yes.
But what I've subsequently discovered through your numerous visits here is you're an incredibly talented artist.
Oh, thank you.
And with a CV like this long, in terms of like awards and recognition and displays and all sorts of things. And on top of that, some of that stuff you actually do underwater.
Oh, yes, I do, actually. That was probably my first introduction into a largely male-dominated field.
Mm.
So, yeah, that's true. Some of it does happen underwater.
Yeah. So, tell me, when did wood come into your creative expression?
It was always there, Don, because of Dad, who was just incredibly generous with his workshop and the tools that I now have. The bandsaw that I have at the moment is the one that I used when I was a kid.
Mm.
So it was always a part of life in our house. And being Tasmanian, I think also there's such a strong woodworking community and knowledge of timber and all of that sort of thing. So from the very beginning, actually, and enough to inspire me to do it as a postgraduate pursuit. Yeah, love it.
Cool. And I guess that shows up in many different aspects of your creative expression.
I think it taught me craftsmanship. So even when painting, I will make my own frames and stretch my own canvases and things like that. So I think it gave me a strong appreciation and love for craftsmanship and how well things are done from the very beginning, I guess. Yeah.
And so with the type of work that you're doing at the moment, like you do furniture, I'm aware you do furniture, yeah, so some very large, unique pieces.
Yeah, and look, the reason for those is that I've been asked to do them, which is just such a privilege. I've had so many people put faith in me, which is slightly terrifying, but it's also pushed me beyond what I would normally have done, which is great, and has forced me to go places that I probably wouldn't have on my own. But I guess all of it's just underpinned by design, really. That's my first love.
Okay.
And I think that, it doesn't matter what that's applied to. Design is just such a great process. If somebody asks you to meet a brief, says they want a particular piece of furniture to do a thing, then I love it.
Yeah. So with your journey, like, are there any like standout lessons that you think you've learned along the way?
Measure twice.
Measure
Wouldn't be
twice.
the first person that said that, I reckon. That's probably the biggest one, isn't it? Just perseverance as well. Failure is always an option, and failure is not, I don't think, is something to be frightened of, because that's how you develop. So, yeah, I guess that would be it.
Yeah. And do you collaborate with others, or are you pretty much?
No, I do. I think one of the most fun collaborations was actually with scientists from CSIRO on a piece of furniture that encapsulates a decade of climate data for Queensland.
Oh.
And that was so much fun. And it was wonderful, I think, for both of us, because at the end they could see their research and their work represented in a way that they'd never considered seeing it before. Yeah, absolutely, I collaborate with people. It's part of the fun.
So was that a challenging project?
Yeah, it was. It was part of a residency at the CSIRO by a number of artists, and we could choose any any of the scientists that were willing to work with us. So we had open slather. I worked with the remote sensing unit because I had a little bit of understanding of remote sensing, and the aerial photographs, the satellite photographs that are taken for the remote sensing are just beautiful. They're incredible. So the seat of the piece is fabric from the satellite photographs. There's embroidery of the graphs in the seat, but then the plinth, the seat itself, is a decade of data cut out on a CNC direct from the CSIRO's numbers and then stacked. So you can see the wet seasons. It's absolutely fascinating, and the corners make histograms. So there's a whole lot of information captured in it.
Sounds like the ultimate, like what I call it, infogram, is it?
Yeah. Well, it almost is.
Yeah.
And being three-dimensional, it's also lit. It's now it's part of the Museum of Queensland collection, courtesy of a very generous buyer. Yeah. That was so much fun. That was 6 months of work. It was fascinating. And
I guess from my perspective, like as a furniture maker and conserver of antiques and so on, there's always this issue or tension between like precision and creative expression.
Mm-hmm. So
how do you, or do you see a tension? And if so, how do you balance that?
It's a good question. I think to me that's the foundation of design. That's what makes a good designer. You have a strong basis in the craft, and in precision. But the art is in making it not look as if one has taken precedence over the other. I guess that would be my response.
So, with the collaborations that you've had, and obviously the father-daughter relationship, do you see a difference between how males creatively express themselves versus females?
Honestly, I don't think I do. When I was doing the postgrad course that I undertook, there was not an equal number of women, but there was certainly quite a few women in the course. And I thought a lot about that question. And I don't see a difference in the output or really in the approach. If women are able to be in that space and work, I mean, everybody brings a different perspective to a craft. But I don't see it as something that's gendered necessarily at all. No.
So would you have any advice for women in particular who might be thinking about woodworking as a form of creative expression?
Back yourself. Believe in yourself. And surround yourself with people who do likewise. Even if you have to find them, even if it means going to join a group where there are other women there. And I mean, I've got to say that every time I've come in here and everybody that I've dealt with has been nothing but supportive. Have faith in yourself. You're absolutely able to do it. I think that's the great thing about what Carpetech is doing at the moment with this program. When you see yourself represented, then it makes that possibility so much more achievable in your mind. You see other people doing it, and therefore you can.
And is there any standout part of either your career or projects that were incredibly rewarding for you?
I think that one for CSIRO would have to be one of them, particularly because at the time I lacked a workshop, so there was a whole village behind making that happen. I had to access another workshop to do it, and so as a collaborative exercise, that was huge. And to this day, I don't have a CNC, and that was my first time using one of those, which was so much fun. mean, it's almost like always the last thing you've done is just to go, because that's the great thing. You continue to improve and to be more adventurous in what you'll undertake.
And is there anything like that's on your mind that you would just like to say about either your career or about woodworking or anything?
Again, I just think how incredibly lucky I was to have a family then and now that have backed me completely and continue to. It's taken me so many places. I've met so many wonderful people. It's been an absolute privilege. I'm so glad that I persevered through the bits that were perhaps more challenging, and had faith. Buying big machinery, using it for the first time, it's daunting.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah, I remember buying the saw stop and assembling it and being too frightened to turn it on. And watching it for quite a while and then backing up and turning it on. And, these are big, heavy machines. Things can go horribly wrong. But then when you push through that fear, and then again, this is not something that I particularly suffer from. I'm sure everybody does. And I think for men, almost it's worse because there's this expectation frequently, I think, that you've just learned things by osmosis. At least everybody assumes that I know nothing, so asking questions is much easier. It's maybe a little easier for us in that regard because the anticipation is that you are starting from a zero basis. Oh, wow. That's like asking for somebody's favourite colour. It's almost rude. I will always, hue and pine will always hold a place in my heart because it's what I grew up with. So I'd have to, for no better reason than that. But, that's a tough one. Oh, again, gee. I really like hand planes. I don't know, there's something really satisfying about hand planing. Yeah, they're all for different reasons. I think a recent one, which was a display cabinet for a perfume collection, was just such a joy. It had so many challenges because it had to be solid black wood, and I started with unmilled timber. Oh, that's all. Applying finish is always, it's just such a...
Person after my own heart.
Oh, it's just such a rewarding, and mate, yeah. Marking gauges are right up there. Calipers, God, I have them in my hand all the time. Probably the calipers.
Yeah.
Music on.
Cool. Thank you so much, Jane, for coming in. It's been really delightful, as always,
No.
chatting with you.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for the initiative. I think it's really important, and it's great that you're doing it.
Cool. Thanks.